are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Web3 Native Podcast by Longhash Ventures, and I'm your host, Shikai. Today, we have our second episode, and it's quite a special occasion because instead of like the usual just interview process, we actually have it in the format of an AMA with a focus on highlighting Balancer version 2. So for Balancer, it's actually I think the version 2 has been a culmination of like many groups of efforts. And so we're very happy to be inviting Fernando and Marta from Balancer, as well as Martin from Gnosis, a special guest to share about this like ongoing partnership with Balancer today. So to give some context, I'd like to share that Balancer recently, of course, launched the version 2. And Gnosis, of course, also launched the version 2. And there is some partnership with the Uniswap. And there's also this like Balancer-Gnosis protocol that has been launched. Now, to support all of these initiatives, we are actually supporting Balancer as part of our Asia DeFi network, as part of the Pioneer cohort, to also work on the adoption of Balancer version 2, as well as the Asia community building. So we're going to come to that towards the end of the podcast as well. So in that context of building community in Asia, today's AMA, the target audience is you guys, listeners in Asia. But of course, if you're in the rest of the world, don't worry as well. Of course, you can listen to this. But ahead of this podcast, we have collected questions from the Asia community, from the WeChat groups and the Chinese-speaking communities, and we have aggregated them and translated them into English for our guests here to answer, and later on we will translate it back to Chinese for the community to also understand. Now we're going to be covering lots of things from the version 2, the features, to tokenomics, the development roadmap, the partnerships, and towards community building. So let's jump right into it. Fernando, would you like to kick it off?
Sure, yeah. First of all, thanks for inviting us, Shikai. It's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, I can talk maybe a little bit about Balancer V2 and as you said, Shikai, how all those efforts culminated into the launch of V2 a few weeks ago for the smart contracts and the DUI was a couple weeks ago or last week. So the idea of Balancer V2, I think the biggest change relative to V1 is the fact that we have thought of this vault architecture, which is very efficient in terms of aggregating liquidity in one place. So for context, Balancer V1, and it's the same for all the AMMs that we are aware of, Uniswap, Sushi, and all the others, each market is its own smart contract. So if you have a pool in Balancer V1, you can go to Etherscan, and you're going to see that all the tokens that are in that pool are also in that smart contract. So it's kind of an isolated thing that does only trades between the tokens that are in that pool. But we know that Balancer is very kind of plural and very diversified in terms of combinations of assets, different weights. So asset managers can just choose what kind of exposure they want. So we have what we call the SOR, Smart Order Router, that for any trade gets the best liquidity for that given pair, which can be across different pools. In Balancer V1, you need an exchange proxy to access all those different smart contracts. And that's very costly because you have to be sending tokens around. So if you want to exchange DAI for ETH, you have to, if you use 3 different pools, you have to send DAI to all those 3 pools and get ETH back from all those 3 pools. What this idea of the single vault, which is what V2 has, and I can explain it a bit better in a continuation, but is that you actually are interacting with 3 different pools, but you're only sending actual tokens once to the vault and getting tokens back from the vault once. And internally inside the vault, all the accounting, it's like the vault's like a bank in that it says, okay, pool A has with me X amount of DAI, X amount of ETH. Pool B has Y amount of ETH, and so on and so forth. And then it just decreases a little bit the balances of the pools and gives back to the trader whatever it was traded with those pools. So that's quite interesting. And another very nice kind of consequence, positive consequence of that is that By doing that, we could isolate or separate the logic of the AMM from the low-level accounting, which is if I trade with pool A has to decrease balance of ETH that I'm buying, and my balance has to increase, or I can get it out of the vault. The idea is that we know that there's a lot of innovation going on in AMMs. We know it's only just beginning. There's going to be lots of new things. We see like ideas like Uniswap, like Dodo. There's like so many different types, like Curve with different invariants, and this is only just beginning. So the idea is that Balancer is extensible. So anyone can come to Balancer and create new AMM logic and plug that into the vault and take advantage of all the existing liquidity that's in the vault, because it's very easy. For example, if your project, for example, has wants to do a pool between project token and ETH or DAI, let's say, Balancer has already a lot of liquidity of DAI and USDC. So anyone can buy your project token by sending USDC directly to the vault and getting your project token. And the vault under the hood will do a multi-hop trade. It will trade USDC for DAI for the project token. But if you look on Etherscan, you're only going to see USDC coming into the vault and the project token coming out of the vault. And that is a lot cheaper than if you have to interact with multiple contracts, which is what happens today if you do a multi-hop trade. You have to send tokens to contract A, then to contract B, until you kind of finalize the trade. So yeah, we were excited about Balancer V2 because it's really a launch pad for innovation on AMMs. Like we're having already different types of pools that are being developed by other teams. And this is our objective. We want to be like this base layer, this primitive building block that people use to build on top of. And it's a no-brainer for other teams that are innovating in the AMM space because they have everything like out of the box for free. The project has been audited by 3 very reputable auditors, Tray of Bits, OpenZeppelin, and Satora. We have a bug bounty of 1,000 ETH. So there's a lot of security that you kind of get from using Balancer, and also network effects, as I said, liquidity from other pools. All you need to do is focus on what's really adding value to the space, which is your new idea around AMMs. So that's pretty exciting. And the cool thing, last thing I'll touch on before, going on or asking, leaving you to kind of ask questions, is that you can also have a business model on top of Balancer. It doesn't mean that because you're building on top of Balancer, you cannot have your project token or you cannot have your value accrual mechanism to your project token. On the opposite, actually, on the contrary, you can have a pool that plugs into Balancer, and that pool collects some protocol fees for your protocol every time there's a trade. It can get some of the tokens and store them either in a vault on behalf of your protocol or already send them to somewhere else. So it's really very open and very kind of flexible for any type of business model to be built on top of Balancer.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Fernando. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, shall we just kind of like summarize it for different groups of people, right? Maybe for like the users who want to execute trades, and then the people who want to provide liquidity. And then I think lastly, like you mentioned, all the developers who will be then using Balancer as a primitive. What I hear is that for the people who want to trade, then it's about the gas savings. And I presume the dynamic fee as well. For the liquidity providers, that also provides a lot potentially better yields for their liquidity, as well as having like more capital efficiency with asset manager, which we haven't touched on yet. And then for the developers, I presume there's some really cool stuff happening there as well. Shall we just dive into reframing?
Absolutely. You touched on 2 very interesting things. And I think that the third, maybe next one we could talk about, which is probably what I'm most excited about, is the partnership with Gnosis, which gave birth to the Balancer-Gnosis protocol. But first, let's touch on the dynamic fee pools and also on the asset managers, which are 2 very exciting things about Balancer V2. So the dynamic fee pools is something that we have been playing around for a long time. It's known in literature. It's not like a very old literature around AMMs because they're not so old, as you all know, but it's known that it's the best way to collect fees is by changing the swap fee that your AMM asks according to volatility. So the more volatile your pair is, then the higher the fee should be. And for some like types of pairs like stablecoins, it's quite easy to kind of to say that the volatility is low. For example, Curve has a fee, I think, of 0.04%. It's a very minor fee. But Uniswap has a fixed fee of 0.3. Balancer has it kind of flexible. And the idea now is that we partnered with Gauntlet, which is an extremely talented group of people like company, and they do lots of exciting work with other teams in DeFi, and we're very proud to be partnering with them. What they do is they collect many different signals from the market. So how volatile the pair is, what other AMMs are charged in terms of fees, what is the APY of the pool now with the current fees, what is the gas price. So they collect many different inputs. They have a nice model that spits out the ideal fee for that pool. So if there's a lot of volatility, they increase the fee. And the nice thing is that with one on-chain transaction, they increase the fee, let's say from 0.5 to 0.8, and all the LPs in that pool benefit exactly pro rata, so alike. There's no like advantage of you having $1 million relative to someone who has $10 because the fees will be increased and optimized for everyone in that pool. So this is something we're proud of. Like we're always keeping this ethos of inclusion and kind of egalitarianism, if you can say so. So we want all the LPs to be the same, no matter how much they invested. So very excited about this. Of course, it still remains to be shown or proved that dynamic fee pools are performing better and having better APYs than static fee pools, but I have no reason to believe that this is not going to be the case. This is the first thing. The second thing is asset managers. So we all know that for AMM pools, most of the assets that are in the pool are not necessary to facilitate trades, right? So if you have ETH and DAI and the price is kind of going up and down, fluctuating, you're actually only scratching the surface of the liquidity, because like 90% of the liquidity is never even necessary for a trade. Of course, that can change if prices like we're seeing ETH going down at the moment. What happens is that DAI goes down, it's getting more scarce, and ETH is getting more abundant. So actually, you're starting to need those 90% of the balance of DAI because you're kind of eating up the balance as the price shifts. But the idea is that most of the time you could actually use those idle assets elsewhere where you would get some extra APY. And the idea here is the partnership we're having with Aave. So we're building the first concept or proof of concept of an asset manager using Aave, so that you have a pool. Most of the assets that are in the pool are actually lent on Aave, and all the APY that's generated by Aave is thrown back to the pool and gives LPs an extra yield on that LP share that they have, or Balancer pool token. So that's pretty exciting, and it's something that opens up lots of opportunities and kind of design space for other teams like Yearn, like Idle Finance, like Lido for ETH. Anywhere you can get some extra interest or extra APY, Balancer can be plugged into through asset managers. And not only for extra APY, for example, the Power Pool team is building a specific type of pool where the tokens can be used to vote. So imagine you have like on Uniswap or Balancer V1, you have tokens that are governance tokens. They cannot be used, right? Because they're stuck within the AMM. Now with asset managers, they can always be withdrawn, used, and sent back. So those two are things that we're very excited about. And I don't know if we can segue into Gnosis, but this is like really putting the user at the center, right, Martin? It's the idea, like Balancer is, in my opinion, very good at being flexible and simple for LPs. But like when it comes to trades, we are like providing the liquidity, but there's so much more that can be done and should be done. We're seeing lots of issues with MEV, miner extractable value. Like there's a tool, I think Martin, you shared that with me, like where you can put your address and then you can see all the times you've been sandwiched. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And like, yeah, I don't know, Martin, you can talk about that. But like, even if you don't know that this is a problem, you probably have been affected without knowing. So that got you some good dollars out of your pocket because of miners. And Gnosis and like team has an amazing kind of design to solve this, and we're partnering with them to kind of plug Balancer, like taking care of the liquidity side, with Gnosis taking care of the UX and UI for the trades, and then combining that to be what we want or aim to be the best trading experience in DeFi. But Martin, maybe you want to take it on from here and talk a bit more about this.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me. Really, the two things that excited us about partnering with Balancer are the things that Fernando just mentioned. It's the efficiency of the vault, and second, this idea. What is exciting about automated market maker to us was that regular people could basically become market maker and profit from that. And in our view, Balancer is really kind of continuing this path and putting in those aspects like this flexible fee and the asset manager to, well, increase returns for the regular liquidity providers without requiring the liquidity providers to do all kind of fancy and complicated stuff. So still kind of regular people can be market makers, I guess. So yeah, those were two really driving factors for us to decide to closely work together with Balancer. And yeah, now to the part where where we come in, what we provide, and Fernando already touched onto it. So right now, today on Ethereum, the reality is if you submit a transaction to the mempool or to the miners, that's not a friendly place, to put it mildly. So miners very openly try to extract value from you. So you send them your trade, and what they will do is they will order the trades in a very specific way. They will sandwich you, so they will just kind of place the order directly. You want to buy a token, they buy the token directly before you at a cheaper price. Then you let you buy it at the more expensive price, and directly after it sell it against the market maker, and basically extract a profit from you. And that's what we want to improve and what we can improve. And we have this concept of solvers. So instead of sending your transaction to a miner, to the mempool, you just sign a specific order, or I mean, basically the trade you want to execute, and then you hand over to the solver, and it's the kind of duty of the solver to execute that trade in the best possible way. And there are tons of, well, again, complicated stuff you can do. Optimize the gas price, optimize the slippage, and really things the user, that doesn't want to do and probably cannot do. And that's what Gnosis protocol does on top of Balancer. The very, very nice thing is the design of the vault. So Fernando already touched on how you can optimize a single trade that under the hood might be a handful of trades because it's using different pools. We can go even a step further because we can settle a bunch of trades. So today, each Ethereum block contains roughly 30 DEX trades. So if they come through Gnosis Balancer protocol, we can combine, let's say, 4 or 5 trades and settle them in one transaction and being maximally gas efficient, because we only need to kind of settle the aggregate. So let's say there's some trader buying token A, there's some trader selling token A. We really just need to do as little as possible token transfers on this vault contract, and kind of clear all those trades, and it became very clear that any form of gas efficiency or increasing gas efficiency is extremely important. It's a big topic right now on Ethereum, obviously. So many traders spend 1, 5, even 10% of the trading value in gas fees, and kind of every saving you can make there is enormously helping users to get more value out of their trades.
And maybe just to complement Martin, one thing that I'm really a fan of cost swap and futurely very soon Balancer-Gnosis protocol is that you don't need to have ETH in your wallet at all. So
exactly.
It's all gasless. It's an amazing UX. Anyone can be immediately onboarded. You send you send DAI to a friend, and they can already trade, right? DAI for whatever they want. They don't need to go to an exchange, have some ETH, and send to that wallet to start using that wallet. So I think this is like an underrated thing today, but a lot of people will fall in love, right, Martin, with that great usability. And
no, for sure.
Yeah, and
yeah, there are a couple of challenges that users. I mean, most of you probably know. You submit your transaction, it doesn't get mined. You kind of resubmit it with a higher gas price. It might then fail, and you kind of pay a lot of money for gas for a failed transaction. And kind of all of that is we are getting rid of that. As a user, you only sign your order. You don't pay anything for signing this order. When the order is executed, you pay a fee for the trade within the trade, kind of, but only if it's successfully executed. So this whole experience of paying for a failed transaction is a way you don't need to worry about, do I have still enough Ether in my account? You don't have to worry about what gas price do I need to set. So definitely, and that touches on the initial statement. It's really the goal is to simply provide the best user experience for traders in this shared protocol.
One important thing also, Martin. Sorry, Martin. Real quick.
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. After you, Marta.
Sorry, I was just wanting to say that it's incredible. And my only question was, is this something that will be enabled by default, or will our users need to know where to click, or, we'll have to build some kind of a different platform? Because, from a community perspective, I get a lot of feedback from people who are concerned about their transaction failing, especially new users don't really understand how it's all working. So doing what we're doing here is just mind-blowing, and I just would love to understand how will it, from a user perspective, how will it work?
Yeah, right now
it will just work.
We had
right,
exactly. Right.
I must chip in as a user myself. So I have been using Composability extensively over this past week or two, and even though it's in alpha, I must say, as you said, Fernando, I immediately fell in love with it because I didn't need to know any of whatever Martin mentioned under the hood, right? All I need to do is authorize what token I wanted to swap for, and then I sign the transaction, and it guarantees a certain price. It already takes out a small gas fee for whatever it is that is required for the transaction. And even though it's supposed to be kind of like waiting for execution, it gets executed so quickly, even for trades of significant size. I must say, I've used pretty much all the DEXs, or at least the major ones on Ethereum. And so far, Composability, even in alpha, is by far the best experience.
Yeah, maybe to touch on that, it's still the early product. So I just want to say the Composability was really just our proof of concept to make it really ready when we have finally it completely integrated with Balancer. So it's great that it works already so good, but it was really the goal to say when we integrate with Balancer and we have this full partnership, then we know it's not it will work from day one because it's already very good tested.
Yeah. So shall we go to that actually? So kind of like, this is the alpha. What then is even better in the full version? And then, what is BGP and how will it evolve from here?
I was just going to say before, maybe Martin, I think you can answer that. But one very important thing that I wanted to add is that because like people might think that because they're trading on Balancer, they're only using Balancer's liquidity. Today, that's the case. So with our UI today, you're only using Balancer's liquidity. But when we integrate with Gnosis and we have like this full kind of partnership live, the idea is that we're actually going to be an aggregator, and we're going to look at all the liquidity sources, like not only Balancer V2, Balancer V1, Uniswap, you name it. So it's going to be pretty much an aggregator that has the best UX, in my opinion, like you said, Chikai. The fact that it's on top of Balancer V2 just means that it will be slightly cheaper to use Balancer V2 liquidity because it's like already embedded in the same vault. So you don't need to do an extra external contract calling, I don't know, another AMM market outside. But if it pays off, if it's worth it to get liquidity from elsewhere, you will, like we will get it for you. So just to make it clear that because you're trading on Uniswap and Gnosis, it doesn't mean that you're not using all the liquidity. And I think this is probably an ongoing improvement, right, Martin, to make sure that we are always looking at all the sources available to give the trader the best conditions possible.
Yeah, maybe to summarize, so in the full version, we want to have the full advantage of Balancer, of kind of using the vault, of having cheap gas costs when settling against Balancer pools. We also want to have this full advantage of a DEX aggregator, of kind of using whatever liquidity there is. If there is, as Fernando said, if there is another place where better liquidity is, the trader comes first, the interest of the trader comes first, they should get the best price. And then finally, we want to have the advantage of gasless experience, of protection against MEV, of extraction from miners. Yeah.
So Martin, shall we go like one step further, right? So I think all of these features from the CowSwap exchange. What about the whole BGP? The greatest crossover in DeFi.
Yeah.
Where are we headed for that?
Yeah. So again, CowSwap is currently the basically the proof of concept, but in the integrated version, kind of CowSwap or the Balancer-Gnosis protocol will build on, or is the contracts are building on top of the vault, and kind of from the Balancer perspective, the trades that are submitted through kind of Balancer exchange will all go through this kind of through this protocol. So we really have a tight integrated experience, and it will also be possible for others, and we will definitely encourage other interfaces to basically give their users also those advantages of, well, I named them, gasless transactions, MEV protection, DEX aggregator, cheap settlement. So that really ideally become a centerpiece of DEXs on Ethereum.
And that's right. One of the things that, just to compliment, that's one of the things that the more people use, the better it gets. And usually in DeFi, it's the opposite, right? The more people use it, it gets crowded, gas prices go up. In this case, it's actually, it's the opposite. Yeah. The more people use it, the more chances you have of a coincidence of once. And this is why
that's basically where the cow meme comes from, coincidence of once, right?
Yes, yeah. So the more people you have, the more likely it is for you to find a better and more optimized way to settle the whole thing. So that's quite interesting if you stop to think about it. The more people using it, the better it gets. Yeah, sorry I interrupted you, Shikai.
No worries. Yeah, we're just about to kind of like relay the significance, right? Is that now while CowSwap is we're all like saying how great it's going to be, but it's not only CowSwap, right? Any kind of like DeFi developer can make use of the same logic and underlying protocol to build whatever experience that they want. And I think this is what the vision that we are putting forth here, right? Is that like this primitive and building block is available for everyone to use once it is kind of like with this strength, and gets better the more people use it.
And maybe, Martin, also nice to mention is that not only the users, but also the solvers are open for all. And that's also a nice thing. That the more solvers there are, the more likely it is that the optimal solution, and it's a very complex mathematical problem that these guys solved. It's amazing. Like, there's so many ways you can combine those pieces and find a settlement. And the way you guarantee, or you try at least to guarantee the optimal solution was found, is by letting people compete for it. So you have like lots of people doing hardcore off-chain, lots of calculations to find the best settlement. And then the one that finds the best solution for traders is the one that wins. And so it's quite beautiful as well to leave it open to anyone who wants to tackle this mathematical challenge of being a solver, and they can make money out of it. So quite interesting as well to see this other side.
Yeah, I was already joking a while ago that we would need a DEX aggregator of DEX aggregators, because already there are many DEX aggregators, and you might want to check different DEX aggregators, and kind of depending on what token you trade, sometimes this DEX aggregator is better and sometimes that DEX aggregator is better, because again, the space is growing so fast, it's so many things are happening. And again, that's also what Fernando mentioned, the solver competition. So those, yeah, you don't need to have the full DEX aggregator and have always the best price. You can focus on one problem, and if that problem comes up or that trade comes up, yeah, well, you will win. Your solver submission will deliver the users the best price. So yeah, that is another way to scale, or kind of to create really the best DEX experience for users.
Can I just ask one last question on here? And then we do need to go to the questions from the community, as well as talk about the Asia community side with Marta. So I want to save some time there. So one last question on this. We've been talking about kind of like giving, opening up for developers, right? Like giving away like the power, I guess, to be solvers as well, all of these. So there's a very core concept of encouraging people to participate and becoming owners and stewards of the network. And also a strong theme of kind of like collaboration, of course, between the Balancer and Gnosis. And this feeds into the whole general idea of some sort of like M&A, composability, and wider collaboration in the whole space. Where do you think this kind of trend is going, or like where do you think it's currently at? Like, do we have enough composability and collaboration? Are we going to see more? And what role are we playing in this?
Yeah, I would say we will hopefully see even more composability and I guess partnerships or like things that are complementary and kind of that make each other stronger. And thankfully, Ethereum is a perfect playground or perfect ground for that. So it was actually quite straightforward in a way to form this partnership. Because Ethereum really kind of is this Lego, offers those Lego pieces where we could use the vault contract, and we had, of course, a little bit back and forth of how do we use it best. But it was, in the end, it was very, very, very nicely possible to bring those Lego pieces together and build a nicer house. And maybe we can, of course, there are many ways how to even go further, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should be seeing more of that, because as Martin said, it's so beautiful to plug things together and compose things atomically. So it's something you cannot do elsewhere in the traditional world. Ethereum just allows you to have this certainty that if I do this, I know this is going to be correctly executed, or else I just won't do anything. And in my opinion, it's quite clear that you cannot be good at everything, right? Balancer is, in my opinion, good at being an asset management solution. And the trading side was something that Gnosis kind of complemented beautifully. And for example, lending, like Balancer cannot be good at lending. And you see Aave, Compound, like those guys like are throwing new features like Aave Pro and the delegation of credit. It's so many new things and cool things. We wouldn't be even possibly nearly kind of delivering that much, because we have to be focused on the AMM. If you do many things, you won't do anything well. So I think the way forward is by plugging those pieces, the best of each part of a wider ecosystem together, and that will benefit the user the most, right? So we should all collaborate, and Ethereum is the perfect platform for that, as Martin said.
And just to give a few more examples, so even without planning or kind of on purpose doing it, there are already so many touch points between Gnosis and Balancer. So for example, we are heavy Balancer users ourselves by providing liquidity and using some of our assets in liquidity pools. So that's how we earn the Balancer tokens. That's why we participate in governance. We are using a big fan of the snapshot tooling that came out of Balancer. We connected that to the safe. So I don't know. There's a big list of things where projects are overlapping and working tightly and nicely together.
Safe Snap is something that we're working together also. Yeah, there's so many things.
Awesome. Can I sneak in one tiny question before we go to community questions? In the next version of CowSwap, are we going to keep the moo when we execute the transactions?
Probably, and then we will actually see the next thing. Well, I can maybe already hint at it. There will be a short game. So if you submit your trade, then you will be able to play a short cow game until your trade is executed. But yeah, maybe I will keep it there. We will definitely kind of play more with the cow meme.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have to go to the community questions, right? It is an AMA after all, so let's jump into it. I do have a pretty extensive list. We'll try to deduplicate some of the overlaps, and it will be, of course, focused very much on the Balancer version 2. So first question from the community is, can you share about the similarities and differences among Balancer version 2 with Curve and Uniswap version 3? What are the advantages of Balancer version 2? I guess it's a good time to compare a little bit, as there are, of course, many AMMs and DEXs around. What are some core differentiators? And maybe it doesn't have to be competitors, right? It could be collaborative as well. What do you think, Fernando?
Yeah, totally. So Balancer v2, Curve, Uniswap v3, I think we're all looking at improving capital efficiency and providing users with the cheapest trades in different ways. So the nice thing about the flexibility of Balancer v2 is that it can have Curve-like pools, and actually we will have that. We'll launch very soon. The Balancer stable pools, which use the same invariant, the same mathematical idea as Curve, had tipped to them. So it's something that works, that people love, and by having that in the vault, it will be nice because you can do a multi-hop between a pool that is a normal pool like ETH DAI. It's a 50-50 pool, and then you use the DAI USDC stable pool on Balancer v2 for the second leg of your hop, so you can trade ETH and USDC using those two different kinds of pools, and all of that under the hood within the vault. So that's something that we're really excited about, and it's going to be very cheap. So I'd say main differences between Uniswap v3 and Balancer v2 is the way we try to achieve capital efficiency is a bit different. Balancer v2 tries to keep this idea of all LPs are equal, and we try to kind of make the whole pool more capital efficient, whereas Uniswap v3 tries to allow for more specific LPs, which then kind of forces you to be more active, to be placing liquidity in a concentrated way, and then withdrawing it because the price moved over. And if you want to stay in the game, you have to withdraw your liquidity, add the liquidity again. So there's more maintenance in Uniswap v3. Of course, what they're saying is that there's going to be other layers on top that will be doing that, but all that comes at a cost, right? You have to pay those layers. You have to understand those layers. There's some complexity. So we're trying to become this more capital efficient AMA through composability, through letting other protocols manage the assets through the asset manager. So that's the main difference I see.
All right. Thanks, Fernando. And another question from the community is around, because we might have new members who are getting familiar with Balancer, right? This concept of LBPs, which is quite a unique one from Balancer, right? So what are the pros and cons of Balancer LBPs compared to other TGE methods? And for some of the projects where their token is already in secondary markets, does it still make sense to use LBP for price discovery or use it to somehow improve it?
Great question. So Balancer LBPs are, in my opinion, a great way to do a token sale because they avoid those bots that start like as soon as the sale or the pool is up and running. They are the first ones to buy because they know the price will go up, and then they dump on actual people that are like slower than bots. This happened with so many Uniswap initial listing, and that's because of the way Uniswap and normal Balancer pools work. So in order for the price to go up, you have to buy it. What LBPs do is it flips. So the weights change over time, and the weights of a pool are indirectly defining the price of the asset. So what an LBP does is pretty much a Dutch auction. It starts at a very high price, and if no one buys, the price goes down. And as soon as someone buys, like the price goes up, but then as the weights continue flipping, the price goes down. So there's like two forces. One is the weights going down forces the price to go down, and people buying forces the price to go up. So there's always like a point where people will find a sweet spot, and you can always wait until your price is reached and then you buy it. And if you don't, if it's never reached, you don't buy it. There are other great solutions like Gnosis Auction, which I'm a big fan of too. So, and that's maybe one of the main cons I see of Balancer LBPs. Maybe not a con, but it's like a property. You don't have the same price for all the traders. So maybe at the first day of the LBP, people are more excited and they are paying like higher prices. And then the second day, the hype kind of goes down a little bit, or vice versa. One nice thing about Gnosis Auction is that all the orders get the same clearing price. So it's in that way, it's fairer. But one nice thing about Balancer is that you have a faster feedback. Like you can buy at the beginning of the LBP, you have tokens in your account, you can do whatever you want. So you don't need to wait until the auction is over and for the clearing of the settlement of the auction.
Awesome. Thanks, Fernando. Yeah, that's a great intro to LBPs, and I think we'll have a lot more documentation on that as well. Now for some of the members who are already familiar and maybe even using Balancer, I have this question here on how easily can you move liquidity from one pool to another in version 2 without incurring the gas fees you would have incurred in version 1. And maybe if I can throw it in as well, the migration from version 1 to version 2, right, for people who are already using it. So migrating between version 1 and version 2 and between the pools in version 2. How is this going to happen?
Yeah, great question. So the nice thing about V2 is that you can migrate your liquidity from one pool to the other without exiting the vault at all. So if you know that you're gonna like keep your liquidity in V2, why would you want the vault to send your tokens only for you to send them back to the vault to add to another pool, right? So this is not on the UI yet, but it's possible for you to do everything, like to withdraw liquidity, add liquidity, trade by using internal balances. And that's also something that I'm very excited about Balancer V2 that I forgot to mention. The fact that, for example, in Arbor, they are trading A and B, like A for B, B for A for B, B for A to make profit. If they do that, why would you get, if you trade A for B, why would you want B to go to your wallet if you know you're like selling it in 2 minutes, you know? So you just say to the vault, well, keep it, because I will save gas by not having to send ERC20 transactions like back and forth, ERC20 tokens. So you just use this so-called internal balance. That's something that we're very excited about and adds to the efficiency of Balancer V2. Regarding migration of liquidity from V1 to V2, unfortunately, there's no other way than to use our migration tool, which is a two-step process. You just unlock the the BPT tokens, your shares of the pool, and then a migration tool will automatically add it to the right pool at the right proportions, and it will do everything for you. So it's a two-transaction process. And we are likely going to start liquidity mining on V2. That's a big topic as well. We'll start liquidity mining on V2 next week. So people will, if they want to have some of the liquidity mining on V2, they should start migrating. But this is not going to be an overnight process. It will be happening probably over 8 weeks or so. So people don't need to panic. It's going to be kind of a gradual process.
For the benefits of the viewers who, I guess next week is a little subjective, would you like to just share some dates or a range of dates?
Sorry, the 24th of May. So today is the 19th for reference. So yeah, Monday, the 24th, we should be already start distributing BAL tokens for liquidity providers on V2.
All right. And I'd like to just touch on one of the points you just mentioned around arbitrage, like the whole internal balances, right? There is one quite interesting question coming from the audience around what kind of percentage of trades do you expect to come from non-arbitrage versus arbitrage, right? Is Balancer going to become like, the high frequency trading, like arbitrage focused DEX or AMM versus kind of more retail facing?
I really do believe that with the Gnosis integration, Balancer-Gnosis protocol, this will increase a lot, and we'll have a lot more retail trades or volume relative to Arbors. Arbors will always be there, right? Because if any source of liquidity goes up or down or gets a discrepancy to Balancer, someone will trade. Sometimes it's a bot or sometimes it's just people because they see the price is kind of better there. But I think that because of the gains in UX and usability overall with Gnosis, I expect to see a lot more retail trading volume on Balancer Gnosis once we do the full integration.
Perfect. So a lot of retail focus as well. And this leads nicely to a next question, because I think for retail, a lot of people are moving to alternate chains like BSC and so on, or to side chains in layer 2 where it's a lot cheaper and faster. So there is somebody who said that Balancer was said to be exploring ZK rollups. What is the latest development on L2? And also, are you considering deploying on Polygon?
Yes, we are very likely going to deploy on Polygon. Lots of people have been asking us for that. And Balancer is all about composability. So already Maker DAO's there, Aave, so many partners we have are already there. So we will deploy to Polygon. We're kind of already talking to the Polygon team. There's no deadline or kind of expected date yet, but it's something we're working on with them. And this is kind of our short to midterm solution to scaling. And longer term, it will probably be ZK Sync or like ZK Porter, like a ZK rollup solution. There's no final definition yet, but that's where we're leaning towards. But it could still be that we try something with Optimism, for example, but it's not really where we're leaning towards at the moment.
And if I may add something here, Fernando, I'm kind of repeating what you said in one of the previous AMAs, which is we as a DAO, we have a very big grant and bounty program. So if someone from the community wants to port Balancer into any kind of other chain, just apply for a grant. And if the community believes that this is something that we need to do, you'll get the grant and just do it. I mean, anybody can do it. It's not like it's just Balancer Labs making all of those developments.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Marta.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marta. And we will be diving into the community side as well. So hang in there, guys. Now, speaking of partnerships, we spoke about quite a few, right? So these layer 2s and potentially sidechains as well. Another area of interest, which a member has asked, is around whether we're thinking of partnering with a group like Synthetics as well, or other potential solutions to form a bridge with real world assets, because this may be the longer term direction for growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're talking to not only like Synthetics, our friends Kane and the team there. We were also talking with MakerDAO. They're very big into RWA, real world assets, as they call it. So I also believe that it's the future. And also our friends at UMA as well. They're kind of similar to Synthetics, but in different ways. I believe that very soon you're going to see stocks in DeFi and like lots of usual things that we see today in the traditional finance world we'll see on DeFi. But there's definitely a lot of challenges on the regulatory side. And we want to do this right. We want to change the world for the better. We cannot take shortcuts and do like shady things against the government. So I think we have to think about regulation and talk to regulators. And one nice thing about Balancer V2 is that it allows a pool, for example, to just have a KYC and AML list or practice, so you can have like permissioned liquidity. And those are things that we're going to explore with institutions in the near future as well.
All right, exciting. And last one from this list is another community member asked about another kind of interesting and big direction as well, which is the partnership, or like I guess the movement towards NFTs. And this could be relating to, I guess, the more creative side where we see a lot of these art and gaming and so on NFTs. And it also could relate to the whole financial related NFTs, where we see things like Centrifuge or Uniswap having positions or loans as NFTs. So will Balancer consider something similar, something to do with NFTs for the AMM as well?
That's a great question. I think a very important step for NFTs will be to make them fungible. So there are very expensive NFTs that it's hard for a single entity to buy. We're already seeing that in many projects that are fractionalizing NFTs, and that's where Balancer is a great platform to play around with. I think it's also possible to do stuff with entire NFTs, so entire works of art or songs or whatever. It's something that I'd have to check, and maybe it's a great topic for a grant, how to create a pool that allows for NFTs to be traded using the Balancer Vault. It's an interesting technical question.
I think with that, thank you, Fernando. That's a perfect segue for us to talk about the community, right? Because we have all these questions coming from the members who are like, hey, is this feature coming out? Is this kind of partnership coming out? But actually, I think the direction we want to move towards is that you could do it yourself, right? You could be the builder or kind of like, I guess, networker that makes it all happen as part of the Balancer community. There's a whole ambassador program coming up. There's a whole grants program coming up. So over to you, Marta, to share with us about this.
Sure, thank you. I mean, I'm super excited about it, and I joined Balancer only 2 months ago to start and help build out that very strong community. And, concept of decentralized autonomous organizations has been around for quite a while. But it's been a very big challenge to build a community of people that feel responsible for the project, to the point where they don't say, oh, when will this come up? But rather say, how can I help make this happen? And that's what I'm really hoping for. And, it was a community member that came to me from China saying that he would like to help build Balancer community in China, and he is really running it on his own with other Chinese members. Balancer is not like, it's not a Balancer group or anything like sponsored thing. It's just community that is excited about it. And this is what I really hope will happen, is that community members will come together, will build those little, like micro DAOs that then become part of the big umbrella of Balancer and start building things. So if you have an idea, you can submit it as a grant proposal. If you would think that something is important to change, anybody can make proposals that all of the governors, so people who hold BAL token, will vote on. There is a process that describes exactly how it happens, and we are working on improving it to be more inclusive. If you would like to create some content, you don't have to ask for permission of any sorts. It's all kind of open to public. And if you want to take Balancer code and build something using Balancer code, that's also great. It's all, we want to be that building block, that core of DeFi in the future. So all of this is possible, and this is something that I'm very, very excited about. And we have a Discord channel where we have most of our communication going. We actually have a Chinese channel where you can communicate in Chinese, and we are really looking for more ideas. And that's why obviously I'm so excited for Balancer to be part of the Asia DeFi network, because what you, Shikai, and your team you are helping us. This is just, it's revolutionary, and I hope that as we build out that strategy and community in China, we will be able to replicate it in other places or encourage it in other places.
Thanks, Marta. Should we talk a bit about this community building effort also in the context of the global setting, right? Is this something that is being rolled out globally at the same time? And so kind of like everybody does this in separate communities, or perhaps there is already some of a community in, say, the US or Europe. And what can we learn from in those examples that we can bring to Asia and localize, of course?
This is a very interesting question, actually, because in a true open source DAO spirit, I am continuing to learn that there are efforts like that have been going on for a while, that were not started by Balancer Labs, but by people who are fans of Balancer protocol and want to build their local community. So definitely we have a very strong Hispanic community. So not only in Spain itself, but Spanish speakers that are producing a lot of articles and content. We have a smaller community building or growing in Turkey as well. The American English speaking community is obviously the biggest one, unfortunately in some ways, but I think it is, it's much less kind of organized in terms of the language. It's much more organized in terms of topics. So there are groups of people that are more excited about the marketing or biz dev side of things, and there are people excited more about the liquidity mining side of things, and so on. So I think that DAOs have this interesting structure where anybody can form a subgroup, and it doesn't have to, nobody defines what those subgroups can be. It can be people who like color blue, it could be people who speak Chinese, or it could be people that are fascinated by marketing, and they can create improvements to the protocol and build content for the community, or improvements to the community in their small group. A program that we rolled out, actually it was Fernando introducing it way before I joined, is a Baller program. So in addition to grants and bounties, which are kind of project focused, you have an idea and you apply for a grant, you get funding for that grant, you fulfill it, and then you can apply for another grant, or you can sustain it because you're passionate about it. In bounties, we have a problem, or labs sees a problem, and we define that problem, and anybody can then say, raise their hand and say, I'm going to do it. And it's traditional bounty, so several people can compete for it, and then the best result is chosen. With Baller community, it's slightly different, which is it's much more an ongoing effort. And it's much more for people who are truly fascinated and excited to be part of Balancer community. So it is not, an additional paid gig that you can do, just like, a Balancer's way of having more employees of sorts. It's very different. It is about people who are passionate and are contributing to the community on long-term basis. So, they've been around for 3-4 months, or they want to be around for a future. So, even if you're starting today, you can become a Balancer in 3 or 4 months' time, showing your devotion to the community and to the protocol. And after that period of 3-4 months of contributing and growing the community, you can apply to become a Baller, and then a Balancer ecosystem fund is set up so that you get kind of rewarded for the time that you spend helping to grow the community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Marta. That's really insightful. And to wrap up our discussion today, I'd like to bring us to a call to action, right? For, I think, especially the viewers who are with us today. What kind of guidance or kind of direction do you want to lead us to incentivize, or not just incentivize, but excite the Baller community to work on, right? What are some areas that they can do, or specific steps you'd like to invite everyone to come and contribute to? And should we also maybe draw some lines? Are there certain areas where kind of it's a no-go, or like probably, Balancer Lab still wants to guide more strongly for now? For both Fernando and Marta.
I can start maybe more from the dev side of things. We are very excited about the flexibility of Balancer V2. So if you have, let's say, a stablecoin project that has some interesting dynamics or design to keep the peg, that can be built as a Balancer pool. So you see some interesting. Actually, there is a launch partner, a V2 launch partner called Gyroscope, which we're extremely excited about. That is doing exactly that, using Balancer V2 to create this new stablecoin system. So yeah, if you have any idea of like mechanisms that need some sort of trade, you can do that, plug that into the Balancer vault as if it is a pool, even if it's not directly an AMM, but everything can be plugged into Balancer V2 as a pool. You only need the add liquidity, remove liquidity, and trade hooks or logic, and all the rest is kind of out of the box already there for you. So yeah, if you're a developer or a protocol or project, please do get in touch on our Discord and look at our documentation. We're here to help you. We're really excited to see more experimentation around Balancer V2. Maybe from the community perspective of Balancer, I think Marta, you could answer that. But there's also we need a lot of help, like that Chinese person who's helping us. We need proactive people from all over the world to help kind of expand and create more engagement in our community. But maybe Marta, you're the right person to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely, there are kind of two ways two calls to action. First call to action is use Balancer, invest, withdraw liquidity, play around with it, and come up with ideas. How can the community and how can Balancer Labs make it better? Because it's a growing, very natural project where it's not like we have this set in stone roadmap and it will be only that way that we're going. No, if you have an idea how to improve Balancer protocol, Balancer community, the user experience with Balancer tools, or you think that there should be a tool build for Balancer protocol, just come talk to us. Come to our Discord, submit your ideas. We have a channel that is called Get Involved. Raise your hand there. On the other hand, if you just want to help, but obviously, it's kind of hard sometimes to come up with your own project, then again, come to our Discord. These are the same two paths, but I just want to make sure that people understand that you can either come up with your own ideas or just say, I have time, I have energy, let me help you. And I'm sure we'll find you a project.
Awesome. Super clear, Marta. And I hear the Discord being mentioned quite a few times. I must also plug the WeChat channel, which has grown to, I think, several hundred members now. So it is actually only by somehow the internal groups need to invite. So we will be sharing some of the invitations for people who are tuning in. And we will also drop the Discord links on there so that people from there can find all these channels to continue the conversation. And hopefully there'll be other languages on the Discord as well, right? Maybe we'll have some Chinese language channels or have those sub-channels within each of the topics.
And anyone can ask for us to make another channel. Again, we are here. I am here only to facilitate what you all want to see happen. I'm just kind of, I'm here to serve you, not the other way around. So please join the WeChat channel. Again, great thank you to Alex who started it. And I'm there. I try to do the WeChat translate and understand some of the questions, but definitely, we are open to suggestions.
All right. I think with that, we have come to the end of our time. So thank you so much again. So thanks so much for coming and sharing all of this. And I hope it really excites all of the community members who want to then contribute, join, build all of this stuff on Balancer version 2 and in Web3 DeFi in general. There was such a great discussion and what a time to be in DeFi. Right before we go, do you also want to just maybe share like your Twitter handle or something for people to follow you if you like? Or any shout out that you like?
Sure. So our Balancer's Twitter handle is Balancer Labs, and mine is FC Martinelli, LLI. And before you say yours, Marta, I just wanted to say that the Chinese community is so important to us. You guys are very you like to experiment. You're fast and everything's happening, and sometimes it might feel like we're kind of Western and only care about the West. It couldn't be farther from truth, and we're looking to work more with Asia, with China, Korea, and you're very important to us. So just wanted to make sure that this is clear. And thanks so much, Shikai, for helping us reach more of the Asian Chinese community, because we were trying to do that in different ways, but weren't really successful. And I think we need someone like you to facilitate that. And Marta, you're also doing an amazing job. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Fernando.
Well, I'm ashamed to say that, but my Twitter handle has maybe like 5 followers and I don't really post anything, so I'm not sure that this is really useful one, but you can connect with me on LinkedIn or anywhere, and also just email me. It's marta@balancer.finance. I'm pretty old school that way. And kudos to you, Shikai, for really helping us grow this community. And I am excited because when I was joining and I asked Fernando, what is your main priority in terms of community? First answer was APAC strategy. We need to be more present in Asia. So here it goes.
Here we go. Thank you so much. We're very excited to be part of this movement and trend as well. And it's a whole team effort with Longhash Ventures and also the guys in China and the local ambassadors there. So let's all work on this together. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And this has been the AMA with Balancer version 2 and part of the Web3 Native podcast by Longhash Ventures. We'll see you again next time.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.